LeBron James recently addressed the media on the lack of Jerry Jones questions compared to following Kyrie's anti-Semitic controversy. Take a look at this.
The whole Jerry Jones situation photo, but it seemed like it's just been buried under like, oh, it happened. Okay, we just move on. And I was just kind of disappointed that I haven't received that question from you guys.
I was a little disappointed myself as a member of the media. Dominique, I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I think he's right. We got to keep that same energy about anti-Blackness. We got to keep that same energy in holding accountable politicians, corporations.
I feel like as a black man, as a black athlete, as someone with some
in every walk of life. And it does seem that there's a double standard for black men.
Dr. OJ.
Well, I would imagine they probably didn't ask him because he doesn't play football. I don't know how all the other news outlets took this Kyrie Irving story. I don't know if they asked football players or hockey players or other folks who just didn't play the sport about Kyrie and what he was doing. Also, LeBron James played with Kyrie Irving, so there's a unique connection there that I think is different. Look, I don't think anybody should defend. I'm certainly not defending what Jerry Jones did in 1957. It's also 1957, 65 years ago. I think if you wanted to attack Jerry Jones, you could probably find something more recent. And if you can't, then you probably shouldn't be bringing this up as a story now. I mean, these kinds of things happen.
That's a great point, Dr. Olega. That is a great point. We could probably find something more recent, but I do disagree with the point that they asked Kyrie. I mean, they asked LeBron the question because Kyrie was a former player with him and is a basketball player. They asked LeBron James all kinds of questions all of the time related to social issues.
They probably shouldn't, to be honest with you.
But they do. They do. This one, they kind of glossed over. They're like, I mean, they've even asked him questions about the Cowboys before. So this is not, I mean, LeBron is who he is, and they don't just ask him basketball questions. He's walked out a couple of times because they don't just ask him basketball questions. Dominique, were you about to say something?
I was just going to say it's also part of a continuum. If I was at a KKK rally or beating up kids that were trying to integrate schools in Little Rock way back in the day, and I'm profiting from a sport that is dependent on Black talent, I would have made a statement about that many years ago without having to have it exposed through an old photo. I would have said, I did something terrible as a child and I regret it now. But no, it's till it comes out and now everyone says, oh, but he was only 14. It's part of a continuum of white supremacist thought.
Yeah, precisely. Listen, Emmett Till was only 14 and no one's given him retribution yet. Alicia?
Yeah, I hate the whole, this was so long ago, we shouldn't be talking about it. They will still jail 100-year-old Nazis, as they should. It doesn't matter how much time has gone by. And Jerry Jones, it just gets on my nerves with Stephen A. Smith taking up for him so full-throatedly, saying that you can't prove that makes him a white supremacist. Well, what we do know is he was upholding white supremacy then, and he's upholding white supremacy now. What people don't tell you about the whole story is, yeah, that happened in 1957, but because of Jerry Jones and his ilk, that school wasn't desegregated until 1965, 8 years later. They don't tell you that those kids in that photo were beaten by the teenagers and the adults that day. And Stephen wants to say he was just standing there, yeah, genius, because it was a still photo. What I would like to have happen next is for the people who were videotaped, because you see some of them in the still photo, let's get some of the video and let's see the rest of what Jerry Jones was doing. Because I don't believe he was this innocent little 14-year-old just being curious. He was on the top of that. He was in the scrum. He was upholding that mess. And all he had to say was in 1957, I did something that was wrong and I apologize. Once I knew better, I did better. Everybody was like, hi, Jerry. But all that, I'm so innocent, I was too dumb to know, that doesn't fly. I don't care how many years ago it was. And that's, to me, it makes sense why he's never had a black head coach.
Listen, I will say this. No one could have predicted Twitter to happen, right? And so he would have had no reason to acknowledge this photo, but for the advent of social media. Dr. Oleka, did you have something you wanted to get in real quick?
Well, I mean, look, I would love to see the cataloged list of everything that everyone on this panel did when they were a teenager that is now deemed offensive, wrong, awful in some way. To compare what Jerry Jones did to the Nazis who were responsible for the Holocaust?
No, I wasn't.
It's
No,
silly.
I wasn't comparing what he did. What I was saying was, don't use the old trope of too much time has passed. That's what I was talking about. I was talking about, yes, that was done a long time ago too, and they should still suffer retribution. That's
I
all
want
I'm
to see
saying.
the
I'm
list
not
of everybody in that photo. That's what I want to see. Name names. I want to know everybody in the photo.
No, Tammy Mack, and this is why. Again, I go back to the point. This was 65 years ago.
Is
And
there in
let
the
me,
Congress?
let me follow this point.
They're on the police force.
There are 65 years, a full lifetime of work for Jerry Jones and for anybody else involved in that photo. I think it is the wrong message in the culture, again, to go back and look through everybody's lives, especially when they were 14 years old, and say, let's cancel these people entirely and completely. It doesn't make any sense. People have made all kinds of wrong decisions in their lives. And to sit here and say, let's cancel everybody because they're...
But
Let cut you off. I got to get Ed in here. Go ahead, Ed.
No, I mean, but this isn't a cancel thing, you know, and to play it off like it's a cancel thing. This is an important moment in American history, right? And to play it off as though he was, oh, I'm a curious 14-year-old doesn't even come close to characterizing this. And you have to understand, like, Southern culture, right? We've all seen the photos of African Americans being lynched in the South, right? And these huge Southern white crowds coming and having picnics. That was the culture of this. You know, when you start to see the crowd that assembled, adults and kids coming to the school to keep Blacks out of the school, that is the basis of white nationalism. What he was participating in was being a terrorist. This was a domestic terror event and keeping kids out of a school. And you can't just gloss over that and say, well, that was 65 years ago. You know, no, you were part of that. And, you know, look, if I'm Jerry Jones, it's on me now to explain how I was at an event like that and then have evolved in my thinking. That's not what you're hearing. What you're hearing is some silliness about being curious.
It is definitely within his power and position today to denounce racism. When President Barack Obama was running for president, he had to denounce his participation and his friendship with a pastor because he had joined the church years ago. And because the pastor had said some things years ago. And so I think at the least, Jerry Jones could publicly denounce racism and denounce inequality in America.